What's up, folks? Welcome back to TacticalTortoise. My name is Trevi, and today we're going to be covering some drama that came up in a GT last week that ended with one player getting a one-year ban from the tournament circuit in which this GT participated. Now, this isn't even the only one-year ban in the competitive community that we've seen in the last couple of weeks. There's another one from an FLG event that I haven't covered yet on this channel, but I'm taking some extra time to assemble some details, and since there's been a lot of misinformation about that situation, should have a video on it next week. But today we're talking about an incident from a player that I actually covered last week on my best armies in 40k video. For those who don't know, I do a weekly video series where I talk about undefeated armies in Warhammer 40k from the competitive scene every Monday morning, and I guess the unforeseen downside of getting those videos out as early as physically possible is that I don't catch if placings, and especially these top placings, get reversed after the fact. But for this situation, we have statements directly from TOs, the coverage team at the event, as well as some reports of exactly what happened to elicit this ban, so let's dive into it. Now, the event in question was the Toronto Winter Open, a massive 88-player GT and World Championships Golden Ticket qualifier. On the day, the event was run by Christopher Rice, a player whose list I covered in that aforementioned Best Armies video. I even commented about some of its unique inclusions and how they were relatively non-standard for the meta, which I guess makes a lot more sense in context. Mr. Rice played on stream in his finals game, and his play raised a ton of red flags. Now, the event was streamed by the cool folks over at Tabletop Live, and if there is one positive thing to take away from situations like these, is that we get to showcase some of the other awesome live streamers that are out there on the front lines covering events, and Tabletop Live is one of them. They have been very active over the last couple of weeks, streaming a ton of GTs in the US and Canada. Go check them out. I'm going to leave a link in the video description to all their coverage. They stream a couple of events a month, and the live streaming is absolutely perfect. I actually love that we have tons and tons of 40k live streamers now covering events. When I'm not covering an event and I'm not playing in an event, if I'm just at home working or playing games, I get to flip through a couple of different channels and watch several games of 40k simultaneously. It is like a 40k information drip, and it makes my whole weekend. Now, at the time of recording this video, coverage of the finals and semifinals has been taken down from the Tabletop Live channel because of this individual's actions. Reportedly, from people who picked up misplays from the live stream while it was still ongoing, the Shoutout player, Christopher Rice in this case, was extremely sloppy, gaining lots of additional movement with sloppy measurement or pivoting his models in ways that would move them farther than is allowed, and moving chargers into melee after rolling, but without measuring if the charge distance would actually contact the target. On top of that, many abilities were misplayed, such as Repentia benefiting from their wound rolls without having charged. Additionally, many stratagems were mistimed or misused, including targeting battle-shocked units with stratagems, not correctly paying CP for stratagems, using on-target stratagems after rolling attacks. In this case, the example being Holy Rage, an Adeptus Sororitas stratagem that is used on a unit before it attacks, but then was retroactively used after its hit were rolled, which is a lot of additional information you're not supposed to have when making that decision. And also using stratagems in entirely the wrong phase. The case in point here was Light of the Emperor, a stratagem that Sororitas units can be targeted with if they are below starting strength in their command phase. It allows them to ignore characteristic modifiers and roll modifiers, but you have to use it at the start of your turn. You don't get to use it reactively to other opponent stratagems or with the knowledge of what happens later on in that turn. And your opponent also gets to operate and use their own stratagems with the knowledge of whether or not Light of the Emperor is active. So the timing in these situations is extremely important. So while overmeasuring and fudging movements is stupid and absolutely cheating, to me it looks like a lot of this can be chalked up to generally being kind of dumb and maybe not reading your stratagem cards before playing the game, rather than intentional cheating or malevolence. That said, misuse of the rules in this case is certainly against the rules and should be punished, and especially in the cases of overmeasuring should definitely be called out. Not to mention the fact that in this instance we are at the finals table of a 90-player golden ticket event, so players should probably be holding themselves to a slightly higher standard and maybe double check their rules before the game to make sure they have their timings down correctly and aren't just playing it by ear. Honestly, I don't think there's really an excuse in this case, but according to the event TOs, the situation was actually a little bit worse than we see after the fact. In a statement made in the Greater Toronto Area 40k Discord server, the community that governs the GTA 40k circuit and the Winter Open event itself, judges from the event made the following statement. Dear participants and supporters, we are writing to address some concerns that have arisen regarding player conduct at the Toronto Winter Open 2024. Following the event, we received several complaints regarding the behavior and play of one participant, and through thorough investigation confirmed the validity of these claims. Specifically, there were serious rules infractions observed during a review of the tabletop live streams of the top table games. These infractions, along with instances of poor sportsmanship, led us to conclude that the behavior displayed by said player was not in line with the standards of friendly but competitive gaming that GTA 40k expects at its events. As a result, the Toronto Open team has decided to take action. We are retroactively disqualifying the individual in question from the Toronto Winter Open in 2024. Their place at the World Championships will be awarded to the next player down in the rankings. Their record for winning the event will be disqualified, and they will be issued a ban from Toronto Open events for 1 year. We understand that this news may be disappointing, but we believe it is important to uphold the values of fair play and sportsmanship in our community. We hope that this serves as a reminder to all participants to conduct themselves with integrity and respect for their fellow players. Thank you for understanding and continued support. Sincerely, the Toronto Open team. Now, not having personally seen the games at the event, there's little I can comment on in terms of the sportsmanship that was displayed by this player. Although obviously it sounded like there were some problems. But according to the Toronto members of the Tactical Tortoise community who are commenting on this, local organizers take these instances extremely seriously. And as we can now see on the event listing on Best Coast Pairings, Christopher Rice, the former winner of the event, has been removed from his #1 spot and has been replaced by Tim Dietlifs running Eldari. Tim ended with a 5-0-1 record, so huge congratulations to him for ending up as the true winner of the event and getting that golden ticket to the World Championships of Warhammer later this year. Now, I also reached out to Tabletop Live, the coverage team that caught these infractions on stream, for details, and while they understandably wanted to keep the VODs of the game privated so as not to showcase poor play to the community, they also supplied a statement that they asked me to share as well. Tabletop Live said, "I know this player's conduct was reviewed by the organizers and they decided to revoke his prize. I don't want to speak on behalf of tournament organizers or take away from the tournament's success, but support their decision, as the community there is full of great people. We did not know the said player in question. From the players to the judges and organizers, I can't stress enough how awesome they are. We did take down day 2 of the tournament in an attempt for the tournament not to be remembered by that moment, albeit positive that the behavior has been acknowledged and the action has been taken. For people familiar with streaming, it's challenging to keep track of absolutely every detail during the game as you're constantly focusing on stratagems used, different camera angles for the viewer, and keeping up with the chat. We chalked it up to the stakes being high in the competitive nature and want to win. Hindsight is 20/20, and we fully stand by the TO statement." Their statement honestly hit pretty close to home to me as well. One thing I've been noticing about my own coverage is that as my streaming game has very slowly, incrementally leveled up, I have more on my plate than simply watching the game unfolding on the cameras. Babysitting the cameras, changing overlays, managing the community, and fixing the myriad of technical problems that always tend to arise during a live stream eats all the attention away, and it's a lot tougher to catch multiple stacked misplays in the moment that they're happening. I'm confident in this case that there's no community ill will towards the streamers themselves in situations like these. And generally speaking, it's not the streamer's purview to actually catch misplays in the moment. It's valuable to have the VOD on hand in case TOs want to review it later, but at the moment that it happens, it is difficult necessarily for streamers to notice that stuff happening. In fact, for those who remember, back in October, an almost identical situation arose in one of my streams as well, where the winner of the event that I was covering was actually later disqualified due to misplays on stream that I hadn't picked up in the moment, but that the TOs found a couple hours after the event. Their response was very similar, and they quickly moved the second place player to top place and disqualified the previous winner. The player in question in that instance actually reached out to me personally after the fact and was very apologetic about his behavior on stream, which I appreciated. But it also goes to show the good that streaming can do for the community as a whole. They can showcase sportsmanship and clean play while while also shining a light on instances of player misbehavior, and honestly racing them up as good examples of how not to play 40k. As well as, obviously, giving us tons of amazing games of 40k to watch and learn from. So let me know down in the comment section how you feel about this particular situation and whether you think that a 1-year ban is fair and makes sense in this case. Big thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. Thanks as well to everybody who supports the channel, either over here on YouTube with the YouTube channel membership, Patreon supporters at patreon.com/TacticalTortoise, and Twitch subscribers as well. All you people are amazing, and I love you. Everybody can be classy folks, and have happy wargaming.